Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. We're going to kick off 2021 by talking about our favorite things about DVC. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner. But before I get to introducing everybody who's joining me on the show this week, because we have a lot of people, I wanted to let everyone know, in case you haven't been following us on social media or reading the dvcfan.com blog, that we have a new sponsor for our shows and our DVC content on our websites, the World of DVC, which is actually a combination of a few companies, dvcresalemarket.com for DVC resales, dvcrentalstore.com for renting out your points or renting DVC points if you want to try before you buy, and Monera Financial if you want to finance. Painfully easy to finance your DVC resale contracts through them. I know because I've financed more than a few through them. So with that said, I am joined on the show this week by my good friends, Mr. Sean Falk.
Hi.
Kerri McPherson from DVC Rental Store. She's the brand ambassador. Welcome, Kerri.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Pete.
Marissa Valentin is right next to her. She's with DVC Resale Market, and she's the marketing and sales director.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Also joining us on Skype, as always, Mr. Paul Krieger.
Hey, everyone. Happy New Year.
And yeah, Skype's not going to, there he is. Skype is funny about switching. And of course, Rob Lindsay, Webmaster Doc on disboards.com.
Hello, everyone.
Yep. Nah, not going to switch. That's all right. All right. You can come back to me now. Okay. So welcome, folks. Happy New Year. Technically, this is our first studio show of the new year. I did do a live stream Saturday, was it?
Yep.
I think. With Nick Cotton, who is I forgot his exact title, but he's with World of DVC, right? So he's he's like the marketing guy and he's one of the guys.
Chief Marketing Officer.
Chief Marketing Officer. Thank you. Thank you. One thing I don't have in my notes. So I encourage you to go check that out. That's over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/DVCfan, and on our Facebook group as well, facebook.com/DVCfan. All right. So let's get to it. I thought a nice way, Sean and I talked about this and decided a nice way to kind of kick off 2021, new sponsor, and there's some new faces on the show, some new voices, was to talk about our favorite things about DVC. But before we get to that, I would like to give Kerri and Marissa both an opportunity to introduce themselves, kind of talk about their background. And the reason I'm looking over to my side, I'm trying to avoid doing that, is because the Skype screen is over here. So can't switch on my monitor here. So forgive me. I'm not trying to be rude. But Kerri, let's start with you. Brand ambassador for DVC Rental Store. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yes, thank you, Pete, so much. I'm excited to be here and work alongside Marissa with this new venture. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, in a little town called Melrose, and came down on the Disney College program back in the 90s. I won't give the exact date, but just something 1990 something. And loved the company. I grew up with Disney, as a child as well, and came down and just loved being immersed in the magic as a cast member. I knew that I wanted to eventually come back and have a career. So I came back to the company in 2000 and had a variety of different roles, as many cast members do. And in doing so, met a lot of amazing people along the way. I was part of Disney Cruise Line for a time. The Disney Vacation Club was one of my first stints with Disney Vacation Club was with member services. So I might have chatted with some of you back in about 2001, 2002. And then my career kind of progressed from there. One of my favorite roles over my 20 years with the Walt Disney Company, hands down, was being named a Walt Disney World Ambassador in 2008. And I held that title for 1 year and got to travel all around the country and parts of the world and celebrate the Tokyo Disneyland's 25th anniversary and participate in Adventures by Disney. And so that was just really a little girl dream come true for me to get to experience, Disney sort of as the ambassador. And then I stepped into a role with college recruiting, and I was a recruiter for about 8 years, and traveled all around and recruited college students to come into an entry-level position, just like I had started. And then got my real estate license and decided that DVC sales was the best place to go with that real estate license and hang it there. And so I became a DVC guide. It's where I met Marissa. It's where I met Nick. And again, I might have met some people listening and watching today. Absolutely loved that role. And then a little knock on my door came, and it was the building bricks for this new place here at Walt Disney World called Club 33. And so I ended my 20-year stint with Disney as a sales manager with the Club 33 team. And I am excited to be here as a brand ambassador with DVC Rental Store. And I feel like my career came very full circle with Disney. And now this is an extension of the circle to sit here and still talk about Disney and be around Disney people. So it's a great meld of many things that I love. So I'm super excited to be here today, Pete. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. And before we get to you, Marissa, I did it again. I went around the room and I introduced everybody except our producer, Corey Fiascanaro. I'm so sorry.
No better way to start 2021. Welcome home, everybody.
What is wrong with me? Did I hit my head at some point? So I apologize, Corey. Now sitting next to Kerri is Marissa Valentin. And she is with DVC Resale Market. She's the marketing and sales director. So Marissa, give us a little bit of background on you and your journey to your current role.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. Thanks again for having us. Pete, I don't know if you can see, but I saw your and Nick's show the other day, so I wore a matching headband just to be part.
Wait, is that a Burberry?
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody was getting was making a comment that Nick was wearing a Burberry shirt. I was wearing a Burberry shirt. So that's where that little inside joke came from. And I realized it 10 minutes into the show. I'm like, oh God, really? Okay. We should have coordinated. But today I am in a Disney.
That's why I left the show, was because I forgot mine.
Shoot.
He didn't get the memo. I'm wearing my Disney Cruise Line shirt today.
There we go.
So
yeah, a little bit about me. I'm originally from Northern California, a tiny little town up in Northern California. And when I went off to college, I went down to Southern California, went to school down there. And my last year of college, I needed to have a marketing internship. I went to school for business and marketing. And so I was walking around school campus, probably met someone like Kerri who was doing recruiting. And they said, hey, the Disney College program, which had recently started at Disneyland on the West Coast. And I thought, you know what, that's perfect. My whole life I've been in entertainment, shows, dancing. So I said, I'll go there. When you're in the college program, you do a Disney role or position at the same time. So I said, okay, I'll go do the college program and then just audition for what things they have available. So that led into shows, parades. I was in Parade of Dreams, Fantasmic, friends with a few famous Disney characters. So probably one of my best Disney jobs, if I look back. And during that time, I went and auditioned for Tokyo Disneyland. They didn't have any openings at that time, but they said, hey, we've got something on Disney Cruise Line. So I went and joined the Disney Cruise Line Wonder 18 cast, and I was part of the performing cast there, which was really, really awesome. I went out for a 6-month contract, and I told my parents, I'm going out for 6 months. 6 months turned into 6 years later, and I was still working on the ships. I had the opportunity to meet my husband out there, so cruise line romance. We worked and launched the Disney Fantasy and worked out there in the sales role out on the ships. and loved it. We didn't have a home. We kind of sailed around the world. We traveled. It was such an amazing opportunity. So I loved my time there. But it was actually during that time period where I saw a lot of the DVC guides that would work out there and do their presentations. And so I met Nick and a lot of their team out there. And I thought, you know what? This is such a cool way to vacation. And so many of the guests that I had met during my time on the ships were DVC members. So I kind of got to learn and got educated through DVC by the members on the ship. And I thought, you know what, this is a really, really cool role with Disney. So like Kerri, I said, okay, that's where I'm going next. So I joined the DVC team, the sales guide team. I went out there for about a year on their land position, if you've ever been to Saratoga Springs, and then kind of had the itch to go back to the cruise ship. So I went back to the cruise team for 3 more years. So all in all, spent about 10 years on the Disney cruise ships. And then my husband and I decided to have a little baby. So we had a baby boy in 2017, and that kind of changed my role and what I wanted to do work-wise. So I reached out to Nick and said, hey, I think I've kind of done my Disney career, and what do you got going on? So I joined his team at DVC Resale Market. I love what I do here. And I think what's so special about what we do, when you work for Disney directly, you're just able to help the members on the purchasing side of things. And what's so special about what we do here is the fact that we can do buying and selling and help our members on both sides of that. So we get to really kind of see our guests from A to Z, and we see so many different members that we actually had the opportunity to work with during our time at DVC. So love my opportunity and the role here. I've recently been promoted to the marketing and sales director, which means I get to do more fun things like these shows and marketing. So love doing that. Love our team. Of course, the World of DVC has also really grown where we get to have people like Kerri and Monera team. So super excited to be here today. Thank you again for having us.
Well, it's wonderful to have the both of you with us. And you folks are going to meet some more people in subsequent shows from the World of DVC. But something, while you guys were talking, something that occurred to me, you know, both of you a college program, right? And of course, those of you who followed our shows for any amount of time know that the president of Warner Travel Media and the Diz, Corey Martin, and his wife, Julie, both college program cast members. Craig Williams, our executive producer for all our shows, college program. Rhino Clavin, another producer, college program. So a lot of, you know, people talk about, you know, best ways to get to work for Disney or work around in the field. College program, man, really meets so many people that started in college program and at different levels of you know, working directly for Disney or now in ancillary positions that kind of support that. So just something I noticed. It's just I thought of when you were talking. But it's wonderful to have the both of you.
Thank you.
And with that, let's go ahead and start talking about why we love DVC. And I'm going to go to the lonely man in the corner in the living room, Sean Falk. Now, Sean hasn't been on DVC shows for a while.
Yeah.
But he's come back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
He's come back. In the interim, Sean went and got his real estate license. Of course, Sean and I are co-owners and moving to Orlando, the real estate business. Mm-hmm. And Sean has been very, very busy selling real estate, but he's really excited about the effort of what we're getting ready to do with the World of DVC and their associated companies. So he's involved as well. Sean became a DVC member last year.
2019? No.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was 2019.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Towards the end of 2019, I became a member, actually on an Alaska cruise. So Pete and I were on one of the Alaska sailings. And obviously we had already been doing a lot with DVC. And so it was in my mind to eventually get there and do that. But they just kind of gave an offer that couldn't be refused at the time for Aulani.
It was a nice birthday present.
Yes. So so I chose Aulani because I live so close to the parks. I was just like, it'd be a lot for me to have to go there. I'd have to have somebody watch my dogs and everything. So I actually wanted to use it for Hilton Head, Vero Beach, Aulani. If I could get into the Grand Californian, that would be amazing. And I haven't gotten a lot of opportunities to use my DVC points yet, just because of world circumstances. And but I'm very excited to really get to use it more. I have it for about 40 more years, so I'll be using it till retirement, essentially, at this point. So I have a very long-standing vacation, and I have delved into everything. I've gotten to research like RCI and all that, because obviously I needed to find ways to use my points. So I was like, what are my options? So now I got to figure those out and figured out what I like and my enjoyment of it. I still love Aulani. I've been a couple of times already at this point, and it is my favorite place to vacation within the DVC realm. Although I love almost all the DVC resorts, so some better than others. But Polynesian, amazing. I absolutely love that one. Personally, I don't really care for the bungalows that much, but the Copper Creek cabins, I think those are hands down my favorite units that you can use. So if you have a couple thousand points laying around and you want to book a week there, then you can use the Copper Creek cabins. That's like the dream, is to go for a week and stay at Copper Creek.
Now, it's funny you mentioned that, Sean, because add-on-itis, the struggle's real, folks. Now, if you're new and you don't know what I'm talking about, add-on-itis is an affliction that happens to DVC members. They, when you first buy, like you like, okay, well, we need this many points because we're going to stay this week and this resort and this type of room, and this is the number of points we need. And they do it and they get it. And then immediately, like, okay, we don't have enough points. And then you start like searching DVC resale markets, listings, and they have some evil listings. I'm just letting you people know now. They have some evil listings. And you're like, oh, hey, you know what? That one would be pretty good, or that one would be. So you start adding on. Now, I think my first contract when I bought was, because I was resale, was like 250 points. And then I did a 75 point direct contract, just to get the blue card. So we get the discounts, and some of the perks that go along with direct membership. So you can do the math. I'm at 1,200 points now. And just yesterday, because, we always say, buy where you want to stay. Really, which resort should I pick? Where do you want to stay? Buy there. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Buy where you want to stay. And I love Wilderness Lodge. I love Copper Creek. I own at Copper Creek and Boulder Ridge. But I was like, what I'd really like to do is do a week in a cabin.
Yeah.
And how many points would I need for that? And I'm looking at, I forgot what I came up with, but it was significant. And I'm like, all right, I need another, maybe I need a Copper Creek contract. So I started searching.
I'm so bad about sitting around and like looking up how long I could stay, because I have 170 points, which is lower than the average, but like enough to get to do several different things. And I'm looking through and I'm like, oh, Hilton Head, I could stay like the whole month of January.
Hell of a way to say inadequate birthday present.
No, it's great. It was definitely a really good one, but I'll like go through and look at the numbers and I'm like, oh, Hilton Head in January, and I'm like, it's 6 points like a night. Like, how long could I stay? And I'm trying to like add the days, and then I'm like, do I want to stay in Hilton?
All right, we're all going, because Sean's about to leave to go out to Aulani for a week.
When this is airing, I'll be there.
Yeah, when this goes up, he'll be in Hawaii. Let's take bets. How long it takes him to get an add-on contract?
Yeah.
After he gets back. So I got in, and then Sean came in, but I also dragged Fiasco in.
You sure did. Got a small contract at Copper Creek. So for those of you that don't know, I am an Orlando local now. I've been living here for a little over 2 years. But prior to that, I vacationed at Walt Disney World every single year for the past 5 years. Then prior to that, it was a regular family vacation we took. But I would always joke around, and I know people are kind of tired of hearing this joke, but I'm just going to say it one more time, and then I'm going to try to not say it again. But I used to joke around that All-Star Music was my home resort because that's literally where I stayed.
And every time he says it, every single time he says it, I want to take my Edna Mode water bottle and throw it at him.
Yeah, so hopefully I'm going to try. That's going to be the last time.
So one of these days, he's going to say it, and the camera's going to be on him, and you're just going to see this hit him in the head.
But now my home resort is Copper Creek. So we talk about this on the Moving to Orlando shows a bit. But when you move here, there's a question that everybody asks, does the magic change? Is it different? Is it depleted? It's definitely not depleted, but change, yes. The way you experience the parks is much different. And what's really awesome for me about DVC is, as a local, I can just kind of on the fly plan these little 1 to 2 to 3 night staycations, which I do often, and kind of experience the Disney parks like I would if I was vacationing here again. Now, at this point, I've stayed at virtually every single DVC resort on Walt Disney World property, minus a few in the past 2 years. And prior to that, all the years I've been coming here, I'd only stayed at one, that was Wilderness Lodge. And that wasn't just with my points. That was, Pete booking rooms and things like that, along with me booking a few, weekend staycations here and there. But I just got to do so much that I never thought I was going to be able to do. Always staying at the resorts, trying to budget as much as possible. I didn't really think it was in the cards for me to do these DVC and deluxe resorts stays all the time, but DVC makes that possible. So, yeah. All
right, let's throw it over to an early adopter of DVC, Rob Lindsay, webmaster doc on disboards.com. Rob, you've had a lot of experience with DVC. So what are your favorite things about being a member? Because you've been a member for many years now.
We've got basically 4 things that we just love about DVC. The accommodations, and I know that there's a large variety of accommodations. We've stayed in studios, we've stayed in 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and grand villas, and they all offer something, regardless how big your group is. There's something for everybody. So we've really appreciated the accommodations. We've appreciated the flexibility. You can go whenever you want to. Pete, I know that you prefer to have 1 use year. We've got 3 now. At one time we had 4, but we were going 4 or 5 times a year for 10
Oh,
months.
Rob, you're very, I'm sorry, Rob.
We could utilize those contracts in that fashion.
Rob, you're very confused. I should have probably done 1 use year. I have 3. I'm February, March, and September. I was advised to stick with 1 use year, but I didn't listen.
The locations, there's such a variety of great locations with DVC, not just at Disney World. We've got Vero Beach, we've got Hilton Head, we've got California, we've got Aulani. There's just, again, something for everybody. There's great places to sample the same type of accommodations and the Disney feel. And the cost is another important factor. Compared to staying in all these locations and paying cash out of your pocket, the point system allows you to really sample a wide variety of accommodations for a reasonable cost. So just lots of reasons. It's been our favorite thing.
All right. Kerri, let's talk to you. What are your favorite things about DVC?
Oh my gosh, there's so much, but I have to echo the Copper Creek feeling here because I love Copper Creek. Growing up in New England, I love the mountains, I love the ocean, the country, the city. I love that small kind of feeling of, kind of a hometown. And for me, Copper Creek takes me out of Orlando and drops me into either New Hampshire or Colorado or Montana. I live real close to Disney as well. I'm just about 20 minutes behind the Magic Kingdom. And so for me, heat and humidity doesn't always work. So I love Copper Creek because it makes me feel like it's going to snow at any time. But then for location, I also love the boardwalk. And that's where my family and I, growing up and coming back as an adult, that was always our favorite place to be, was the boardwalk, obviously for the location of Epcot and Disney's Hollywood Studios, but just the feeling of just so much entertainment and the liveliness there. So I have to go between both of those. They're completely different, I realize, but they just offer something, whether it's the ambiance or the great location plus sort of the lively nightlife that you get at the boardwalk. I have to pick those two as probably my top.
All right. And Marissa, what about you?
So I'm also here in Orlando. So we're very unusual the way we use our DVC, but we love to do like 1 or 2 night getaways. My husband and my son, who's now 3, obviously he loves Disney, so we try to take advantage of that. But typically, like, our favorite thing to do is Vero Beach. We love Vero Beach. It's an hour and 20 minutes away from where we live, so we drive out there. We try to do a couple weekends throughout the year there, and it's so wonderful because it has, and if you're a Disney Cruise Line person, it almost kind of gives that Disney Cruise Line feel a little bit, but it's got everything you need right there. You've got the beach, you have the Disney feel, the Disney service, the rooms are beautiful. So we love Vero Beach. And then we try to do a stay every Christmas. Now I know the point chart's changing for 2022, but we would usually go like the 22nd or the 23rd and take advantage of like the really low point usage. And we'll usually kind of splurge and do a 1 or 2 bedroom for the 3 of us. But we love to like bring food and cook a big meal and do Christmas cookies. This year, we made a bit of a mess with Christmas cookies all over our 1 bedroom at Copper Creek, but it's just a kind of a fun, like, it's our family's little, like, before we get into Christmas mode at home, we do Christmas at Disney. Normal years, they do like the caroling, and there's often like character meet and greet. So we'll do kind of the monorail train around. So that's kind of one of our favorite splurges each year with our DVC points.
All right. And that's actually going to be a topic we're going to do at some point as best ways to splurge your DVC points. So I'm glad you said that. Paul, what about you?
Since I can't get hit by the Edna Mode bottle, I'm going to bring it up again. But, growing up for me, going to Disney
I can text
once
Amy
every couple years.
I can text your wife and have her hit you with something.
Going to Disney was like a once every couple years experience. We stayed in all-star movies, and it was this big rarity and a very big special event that my mom, my grandma, and I could come down and go to Walt Disney World. And to now be an adult and be a Disney Vacation Club member, I have that guarantee that I'm going to be able to go every year, and I've prepaid for a large portion of that. And I think that's what's special about DVC to me is knowing that I can go there every year, and it's not going to be something that's rare, and I'm not going to have to stay in all-star movies. I get to stay in these accommodations that are just beautiful, ones that as a kid, and even like when Amy and I first started traveling together to Walt Disney World, we would look at the Grand Floridian and just be like, man, it would be cool to stay there someday. And now I've stayed there a couple times. So those things Disney Vacation Club brings to you that otherwise you wouldn't get to experience. So,
and for me, now I own it: Bay Lake Tower, Boardwalk, Copper Creek, Boulder Ridge, Beach Club, and Saratoga. Most of them, and. Obviously, I'm an Orlando local. I live here, right? And I never thought that DVC made sense for me as a local, right? Because I have, I don't live in a mansion, but I got it's a nice house, and I'm a half hour away. But of course, with my line of work, I own the Diz. I'm co-owner in Dreams Unlimited Travel. We produce a lot of content around the resorts and around the parks. And there are times when it is very advantageous to have, especially if we want to do hotel reviews. Now, you guys, most of you have watched our hotel reviews over the years. Those aren't cheap. And it's nice for me as a business owner to have those points available to get those rooms with that. It's nice to perk my team with rooms. We have our Spanish language site, cdisney.com, and the three folks that really run that, Federico Argar, Jimmy Valdez, and Melissa Gill. And I've been able to get them rooms on property that I would normally have to pay for, because obviously if my folks are going to be coming here and covering things, I'm going to pay for most of that. And I can use my points and put them in all these great different resorts. I love the variety of it. But also for me, I like to stay in the resorts. I love to do staycations. And, I had 7 points I had to kill before next month. And I'm like, oh, look, I'll grab a studio. I'll grab a studio over at Copper Creek. And I did for one night. And I love having that flexibility to do that. And an opportunity to stay at Wilderness Lodge. And what's my favorite thing of all DVC things that exist in the world are the cabins at Copper Creek. I stayed in one of those cabins. Now that I paid cash for, that was during one of our events, and I didn't have the points. I don't think anybody has the points to do a week in a cabin. But I'm going to tell you, it was not only the best hotel room I've ever stayed in on Disney property, on any Disney property. It is among the best hotel rooms I've stayed in, period. And that's saying something. It was amazing. And, my mother loved it. And then, when her sisters were in town, and I was able to put them up there, and I forgot where I was. I was in Europe, I think. And I was getting phone calls from my mother, and and her laughing and her sisters laughing like a bunch of teenagers. These women are in their 80s and 90s. And that is priceless to me. My mother loved it. She loves the boardwalk. She loves beach clubs. So being able to share that with my family, share that with my team, is huge. And I love the flexibility of it that, Rob was talking about the point system and it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Now, a lot of other timeshares have stolen that, right? Stolen that idea, but I believe it was Disney was the first one. Am I correct?
They were, yeah.
So, that point system I love. And
I think to your point, Pete, the rooms on Disney property, you can't go to and book a room with a full kitchen. That's the only way you can do that is through DVC. And I remember when I used to work for DVC, I'd always say these are like the best rooms, deluxe plus, because you're going to get the deluxe amenities of the deluxe resorts, but you're going to have the full kitchens, washer, dryer, really that home away from home. And I think more this year than ever, people have wanted to have those home comforts when they go on vacation. And I think that's why we've seen such a huge trend in DVC going up this last year, where we thought, okay, where's the market going to go? And it's only continued to increase because people want to go to Disney. And what a better way to do that than obviously the economical way, but to stay in rooms where you can do your laundry right there if you want to come in from the parks, or make your own food if you're not quite ready to go to the restaurant. So I think that's, like you said, the rooms are just a huge plus of DVC.
Yeah, no question at all. And I prefer the 1-bedroom units. I like to have a little more space. And those options are, those options at Disney World, if you're not using DVC, are expensive. If you want a suite with that amount of space, you better be prepared to spend $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 a night. And there are people that do that. And I think to myself, the amount of money you just spent on that room, you could have bought yourself a small resale contract, cash, for what you paid for that.
Well, that's a really good point, because actually when Rob was speaking, it prompted me. I was like, oh yeah, the price of everything. So I went through and added up, because normally, like, I'm going to Alani. Alani is somewhere I never ever would have gone or paid to go to on my own, because it's just too expensive. Like, it is very pricey between flying there and having to pay to go to the resort and all that. And so I pulled up the exact room that I'm staying in. I have a 1-bedroom for a week in a standard view. Currently speaking, that for the exact week I'm going, it would be $7,200 to purchase that directly. And I did hop onto DVC Resale Market's website. I've been doing a lot while y'all were talking. So I hopped on there. I found it's 238 points is how much my week cost me. So for me, that's a year and just a little bit over as far as banked points that I had previously. So there is a 230 point Alani contract currently at $100 a point. So that's $23,000. And you can go for the next 39 years if you want to, or maybe it's a little more, actually. I think it's about 41 years or something. So I'm like, wow, this 3 times. And this will be my 3rd trip to Alani. So all that money that's been collectively spent literally could pay for this. Obviously, you have your dues and stuff after. But just looking at it, I'm like, I never would have got my friend group to split an $8,000 room. I can tell you that much. So with us paying cash, but it's such an opportunity to get to do something that you would never get to do. And you do recoup that. I mean, I can already add up, and in just a few years of me owning it, I'll have already recouped anything that would have been spent as far as the value goes.
And, also, I know a lot of people watch the show that are considering DVC. And you've heard me say it many, many times that renting points is a great way to try before you buy. So Sean's talking about what a week costs. That's if you're going through Disney directly to get that room. But you can rent points, because that's another thing I love about being a DVC member. It's a real estate interest. So I can, if I'm not going to use my points, I can go to a company like DVC Rental Store and put my points up for rent and get money on them. But also people can rent those points out. And I'll tell you now that if you rented the points to go stay in the same room that Sean is getting, it's not going to cost you $8,000.
No,
it's not going to cost you $8,000. So that is another thing about it I love. There is that. Plus there's like, just, I don't know, there's this whole community. I don't know that there's another timeshare that has the community around it that DVC
Pete,
does.
I was just gonna add to your point about renting and community. It's funny that you just brought that up too, because the community of Disney, members have members, DVC polo shirts or baseball hats, and it's a community that when you kind of walk in the parks, you sort of see your tribe out there, and you're like, oh, you get it. Where do you own? How many points do you have? And it becomes this little friendly banter. But to your point about renting points too, if you're kind of thinking, well, I don't know really how that works, I'd like to sort of do that, try before I buy. DVC Rental Store, I can tell you, we have just huge savings as low as $10 a point right now. So if you sort of times that by however many points it takes to, have this room per night times however much of your stay, 3 nights, 5 nights, 7 nights, it's such a great value to sort of see it before you actually dive in. And then I think you'll get hooked and then want a resale contract too. And you can choose any of the resorts, really. We have the rental properties, the rental contracts for all of the properties, pretty much all of the DVC resorts as well. So that rental, that family that's sitting there thinking, I want to be part of this community, but I don't know, I kind of want to test drive it first. This is a great place to start at dvcrentalstore.com, and then buy your resale contract, and then go get your polo shirt and walk around Disney and find your tribe.
And there is, really, there is something to that. There is something to that sense of belonging, and I don't know exactly how many thousands of people are in our DVC fan Facebook group, but if you're not, you should go do that. Link right down below in the description. Oh, I'm also supposed to remind you to please subscribe and hit that bell to get notified. I got to get better about doing that, because these shows are only going up on DVC fan YouTube channel are not going up on the Diz Unplugged anymore. So this is the only place you're going to find them. But, you look at that, we've got 14,000, I guess, in the DVC fan group. That's a huge community. That's a huge, huge community. We all make friends and Disboards and the DVC forums on disboards.com as well. That's huge community there. But go ahead, Paul. I heard you chiming in.
I was just going to say, that's a big word that we use in DVC fan is community, because that's what we're all about there is being that like-minded group of people that can come together, talk about what we love, answer each other's questions, enable each other to buy contracts when we run out of our own money. So, it is its own little family. It's its tight knit community. And that's what I sort of love about it. So that's just another thing about DVC that is fun.
And we are enablers. We are absolutely enablers. Do not go to our Facebook group or onto our boards and talk about, I want to get an add-on contract. I don't know if I should do it. Because they're gonna push. They're pushers, okay? And I'm their king. Look, like I said, I drag. I'm like the Pied Piper. I drag everybody in.
Yeah.
Got Sean to be a member. Got Fiasco to be a member.
Yep.
But there's so much about being a DVC member that I do love. Now, look, it's not all rainbows and sunshine. We have. I have my issues with some of the resorts. I have my issues with DVC management, which I've made clear in many shows, and I'm sure I will make clear in others. But all things considered, I have zero regrets, of joining DVC. No regrets at all. Like I said, I'm hunting down new contracts. So it's great. It's great to be a DVC member. And I thought, Sean and I thought this would be a good topic to kick off 2021.
I think another thing we saw this year too with 2020, just you own something, right? So like for everybody who goes to Disney and they're paying for that vacation, they come back with those great memories, great pictures, but they don't have anything after the fact, where we have so many members who bought at Key West originally, or Boardwalk, or Beach Club, or Grand Californian, and 2020 hit, and maybe their lifestyle had changed, something had happened, and for some or whatever reason, right now DVC wasn't going to make sense for their family, so they needed to sell their contract. And I think what was so special about this year is people would come to us almost in a frantic of, hey, we know there's a lot going on, we need to offload this contract, and we were able to give them this great news of, yeah, well, we can sell it for much more than what you paid for it. And I think just, again, that kind of speaks to Disney as a whole. And I think people want to continue those Disney vacations, and the demand is still there. But how special for those families to have 20 years of great vacations, great memories, but then they sold something for more than what they paid for it. They walked away with a nice chunk of money that they could do what they needed to do for their family at that time because they did a smarter way of vacationing. And I think I don't know any other timeshare in the world. And I think that's what brings kind of that community in as well. Is just, it's such a magical thing to say, hey, I own this. I take deluxe plus vacations at Disney. I save while I'm doing it. And you know what? If there ever comes an end when we're not able to do this, we're going to pass it on to a great family who gets to continue it. And we're going to be able to take that money and do something special for our family too.
It's a really good point that these contracts, this ownership retains its value and increases in value over time, especially when you buy in early. Talk to the people who bought Grand Californian when it first hit the market, and what it's going for now. So no, this is one of the only timeshares that I know of that appreciate like that. But I am sure we could go on for hours, but we do need to wrap this up, folks. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next week with another edition of the DVC Show. Happy New Year. Have a great week.